Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. This is going to be a double review of Sisters and Guts by Raina Telgemeier, the author of Smile. So Smile has generated a lot of discussion, not just based on its own content, but also kind of based on how popular it's become in the scholastic market and the school market. And what's kind of interesting about it is it sort of symbolically represents like the not superhero comic. Like even if when I've heard people complain about Smile, it's like, well, just because Smile is doing well, that doesn't mean the comic industry is going to do well. There are even a couple passages in these books where Raina makes the point that she was into Calvin and Hobbes and comic strips like that, but she was never into Batman or kind of like the Marvel or DC characters. So it's kind of interesting that like on purpose, Raina is not making that sort of comic. It's a lot more of she even kind of mentions Linda Berry. It's a lot more of like the honest autobiographical approach to comics. And so, I hadn't heard about, I heard a lot about it. I'd never read it. And I read Smile last year and I was really, really impressed and pleasantly surprised because kind of what I was afraid of going in was I was afraid it was going to be sort of like the extremely personal lecture where how would I define that? Where basically it kind of puts yourself at the center of the picture and kind of like makes everything about you, and maybe like has some little ideological message that it's got to throw at you, kind of disguised in the form of telling your own story. So I was a little worried I was going to get lectured at or something to that effect, and I was just not just pleasantly surprised, but like deeply personally impressed by the quality of Smile. And Sisters and Guts has a similar format where Raina focuses on one sort of theme within her life. And rather than telling stories from her life chronologically, she tells several stories that relate to a singular theme. So in Smile, the singular theme was her injuring her teeth and having to go through dental surgery over the course of years, and also kind of like having a lot of the common, experiences of a girl growing up into puberty. Sisters and Guts also have this similar theme where there's a underlying thing, like having a tough relationship with her sister and fighting about her listening to too much music, and Amara basically like having a temper. And over the course of time, Raina connects her like little childhood experiences with a bigger picture problem that could speak to an adult. And I really, really, really appreciate this. I think Raina's doing one really important thing. She's being honest about her experiences. And I don't think that she's editing or censoring her experiences. Obviously she wants to make it like fun to read, but she's not making it all about Raina Telgemeier. She's telling you a story from her childhood and what she learned from that, in the hopes that maybe you can overcome a similar problem, especially if you are like a little kid going through similar things yourself. So basically, I'm now willing to say if you're one of these like superhero, like cape shit only types of guys, I actually think you really should pick up and look at what Raina Telgemeier is doing, because I think the Western comics industry does need genre diversity. And I'm speaking as someone who's like a big fan of superhero comics. I really respect like the history of them and the people who've contributed to superhero comics over the years. But I get sick of reading just about superheroes. I want to read about more than just superheroes. There's a parallel to this in the manga market. If you like superheroes, there's Shonen Jump books for you, and the Narutos and the One Pieces. If you're getting sick of the teenage, superpower fighting stories, there's all kinds of genres in the manga market. So maybe rather than looking at the scholastic market as a competitor to the superhero scene, maybe it's better to look at the scholastic market as an opportunity or a approach to doing comics that's different than kind of like the traditional superhero publishing industry. So Sisters, but nice little details like this. So Raina and her sister Amara both had a connection with art, and kind of like the theme is they just do not get along, which anyone who's had one or more siblings, I think, could really connect to that. And Raina's also intelligent about pairing the flashbacks with what's going on in the present day. So in one of the flashbacks, her little sister listens to a Bambi book on vinyl over and over and over and over again until Raina's sick of it. And the connection is that Amara, years after that, still has like an intense love of deer. Like they're her favorite animal on Earth. So there's just something really real about that. And this works because of the juxtaposition of the present day scenario with the older school scenario. Uh, for Amara, it's kind of like more of a problem that she's very selfish and more like inwardly focused, which makes sense for a younger sibling. Like the younger you are, the more self-focused you are. Whereas Raina is becoming a little bit more withdrawn. Like she listens to music all the time. She sort of tunes out the world. She's a little worried that her mom and her dad are not getting along. These are really real, raw feelings that young people, like age 10 to 12, worry about. And the parent thing isn't like the main thrust of the story, but you can tell it's sort of like a underneath things. It's one of the things that Raina is worried about. And basically it resolves with Raina and Amara really not just like saying, oh, well, we're sisters and we're going to love each other forever and be best of friends. It's really just them realizing that because they're sisters, they need to rely on each other, and that they're going to be together. They're going to be together forever. So they better make this work. So Raina learns to kind of like not always have her headphones on and tune out Amara. And it doesn't tell you like what happens with some of the other family issues, but you at least have the sense that you at least have the sense that whatever this family's problems are, at least that these two are working towards being friends with each other and not being constant enemies. That's fantastic. Guts is, I would say this is like the darkest and most mature of the three. So if sibling rivalry is something like anyone with a sibling goes through, Guts is a little bit more about Raina struggling with basically like the feeling that she was always going to be sick. It opens with her getting some kind of food poisoning and basically kind of being traumatized by the experience. And after that, she's basically continually afraid that someone's going to give her germs or she's going to catch a stomach flu again. And she's becoming a little, what would it be, like germaphobic about it, to the point that, it's irrationally germaphobic. Like she won't even like touch something that someone else is touching. And she needs to go to therapy for this problem. So this is a really raw topic, because it's getting at, bodily functions. It's getting at having these irrational fears that are holding you back and are becoming neurotic. So she's picked a pretty mature topic, but she's dealing with it honestly and kind of like admitting like, I had this problem, while not being like gross and deliberately in your face about it. Like you have to talk about it a little bit to make the point. You have to be honest enough about it to admit like, I was worrying about like puking. I was worried about having to go to the bathroom all the time. So that's a tough topic, but she's approaching it in a way that like a kid could read this and not be traumatized by it themselves. So one of the things I really appreciated about this was the middle school bully subplot. So this is where I think it all comes together, where actually being honest about your personal experiences helps you write better. One of the things about bullies in comics and TV is there is the TV sitcom bully. So anytime I see the bully, I think, oh boy, here we go. And the stereotypical image I have of the middle school bully is it's a blonde and blue-eyed white boy. And you have to make him blonde and blue-eyed because that's what makes you realize, oh, he's like a Nazi, right? And then he'll always say something like, you're black. I hate you because you're black. And you're thinking, oh my God, this doesn't exist. So what's neat about this, I think, is because Raina is being honest. She tells you a story about bullying that doesn't fit into the stupid 90s sitcom stereotype of a bully. I'm just going to describe it. So her bully was Michelle, and Michelle would just do like immature middle school things, like call her a poopy diaper baby, right? Like not even another like stereotype of bullies is they always have some like ingenious evil plan. We're going to dump a bucket of blood on her at the high school prom, right as she's giving her speech. We're so evil, right? No, the bullying relationship in this, it feels a lot more realistic because it's just kind of petty and childish and mean. Michelle makes one comment to Raina's Korean friend Jane, are you eating dog food? Which maybe that's meant to be like a veiled joke about, oh, you're Korean, so you eat dogs, right? It's not clear if that's what it's intended to be, but the point, really the overarching point, is that Michelle just likes being mean to people, kind of for the sadistic pleasure of getting that reaction out of them. And so Raina really dislikes Michelle for a while, and this becomes a running problem. Raina also uses, I'd say, what would this be? Kind of like mind melt or abstract scenes to illustrate something like being afraid that your sickness means you're going to fall into darkness. You're never going to stop being sick. You're going to be sick at the worst time, and everybody's going to think you're a stupid baby, and nobody's going to like you anymore, right? Fear of being embarrassed is actually becoming worse than the sort of physical problems of having to puke from time to time, or having bowel troubles from time to time. The character Raina in the comics problem is becoming a mental problem she doesn't know how to overcome. So there are a couple adults in her life who help her with this. So she gets a therapist, and the therapist basically helps her to vocalize what she's thinking about and what she's feeling. And it's sort of like, once you can vocalize the problem, you can start to look at it as a problem you can solve, rather than just like a mess of problems where you don't even understand how to begin approaching them. I really appreciate this because it's communicated visually. This is like a really profound psychological idea, is in order to address your problems, you have to identify your problems first. And when you're drowning in your problems, you don't know how to identify any single problem, right? Because they're just all around you. And using visual communication, I think a child would be able to understand what Raina is getting at. It's giving it this format that an 8-year-old could concretely get this. Because if you try to like throwing like Jordan Peterson stuff at an 8-year-old, and like the id and the superego and the ego, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. This works at that reading level. There's also a neat thing of guts having symbolic value. So she's literally having problems with her guts. She's literally having problems with puking at the time. So the earlier problem is, she says to Michelle, "I hate your guts." Towards the end, when she and Michelle work this out, Raina tells Michelle, you've got guts, Michelle, right? So guts themselves have a symbolic representation in addition to the literal thing where you're feeling sick. Having guts also represents, I guess, having intestinal fortitude, having the ability to not suppress, but control those sort of like gut level, instinctual, primal urges and primal fears. It's also neat that different adults give Raina a different perspective. So she has this teacher who she seems to like, and he's kind of tough on her. Like, he gives her a bad grade if she doesn't do her presentation. When he sees her and Michelle fighting, he doesn't just instantly take her side. He assumes that maybe Raina is contributing to the back and forth herself. And his advice is just very general, like, maybe Michelle is going through her own problems, just like you're going through your problems. Maybe treat people the way he teaches her the golden rule: treat people the way you would like them to treat you. And so even though he's not like intimately aware of all of Raina's problems, this is clearly like a piece of advice Raina needs, because the nasty relationship with Michelle is actually adding to Raina's problems. No one is helped by this scenario. So Raina has an outburst during Michelle's presentation and kind of interrupts her, and Mr. Abrams gives her like the stern talking to, like, look, you're not respecting her. You show her like the courtesy of not trying to stop her while she's doing her thing. Now, this culminates in a redemption story for Raina and Michelle's relationship, which I really appreciate, because, again, the stereotypical bully in a lot of, I think, like fake stories or TV sitcom style stories is the bully is there to be defeated forever spectacularly. There's like some goofy Dragon Ball meme where I think it's like some nerdy kid is daydreaming about being in Dragon Ball Z so he can blow up his bully's house or something like that. Like, I think a lot of people use stories as a way to vocalize pent-up frustrations about getting bullied in middle school or getting bullied in high school. And the consequence of that is it's always like, I'm always right and my bully is always wrong. And in this story, Raina is honest enough to admit that maybe she contributed to the negative relationship with Michelle a little bit. And Raina and Michelle find peace. They both end up as friends with Jane. Jane's a shared friend they have. And earlier, while working with a therapist, Raina had this problem where she has a mix of thoughts, she has a mix of feelings, she doesn't know how to like put those into words. What happens is she's thinking about how happy she is that Michelle is dead, which is a really nasty thing. And then Raina has to kind of consciously say, no, I shouldn't be thinking that way. I should try to like guide my feelings and my thoughts so I'm actually doing the right thing towards Michelle. And this is all communicated visually. Again, like 6-year-old gets what's going on here. Michelle is sick. She thinks she's happy. She feels sad. Once she conquers really this kind of like evil, sadistic thought of celebration at someone else's pain, she's able to forgive Michelle, and they do something nice for Michelle. They make Michelle like a nice get well soon card. And they call Michelle in the hospital to see how she's doing, and it's clear that Michelle and Raina are probably going to get past like this childish middle school girl fight that's been holding them back. And Raina actually starts to admire Michelle. You've got guts. You've been enduring this. I had no idea you were enduring this. I'm really happy that you're going to be okay. And we actually share some things in common. So that's really neat. I like this because I don't see a lot of bully redemption stories, and it just feels honest. It's not Michelle is evil and Raina is good. It's Michelle and Raina are two stupid kids in middle school. Kids in middle school are mean and stupid and hopped up on hormones and confused about life. So I really appreciate these series. I'm going to be checking out more of Raina Telgemeier's work. I would recommend these for parents of kids. I think it's very useful for kids to read something where someone talks about an experience like this. It's sort of like if you know that someone else has had an experience like this, it helps you realize, oh, I'm not the only one who feels this way, or this is a way someone could feel, so I should watch out for that. Maybe like think about how I'm thinking and feeling to avoid some of these problems becoming like worse and worse and worse problems. If you are a writer, I think you should. She's very good at comedy pacing, by the way, probably due to the influence of Calvin and Hobbes and her interest in newspaper comic strips. So I chuckle frequently while reading both of these books. Guts is a lot more of a serious and kind of like dark problem. So this one, it was a bit more visceral, like, oh man, that sucks so much. But both of them have their moments of humor and levity to lighten the situation. And I'd recommend this to writers as an example of taking your personal experiences, telling a story about your personal experiences that actually is entertaining for the reader and helps the reader think about an important topic that's bigger than just like the little day-to-day jokey side of the story, and as a way of maybe finding something other than just the action-oriented superhero story. Comics doesn't have to just be limited to that, and there's a market for this. People should be like, when you see there's a market for something, according to capitalism, that means that there's opportunity for you to make something that speaks to that market too. But you can't make it by faking it. You can only make something like this by being really real and honest about what's happened to you and what you've learned from that. And that's what I most appreciate about Raina Telgemeier's work. With that, I'm no more Marmaduke fan. Love you guys. Catch you later.